Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice in making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus with JBL Financial Services. I am a 40-plus year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined by my incredibly able crew. My oldest prodigal daughter, the president of our company, Aaron Lapidus, who also is a certified financial planner. And her husband, my favorite and only son-in-law, Rob Markham, who is also a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a real game plan, a step-by-step strategy that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one they can count on so that they can do all the things they'd want to do in retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their healthcare needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, with Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron, Rob, and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us retirement coaches. Gang, again, good morning. And good morning to the folks out in Radio Land. Thanks so much for taking your time tuning in to us for 2 hours this morning. As you know, our first hour, we love to take, and the second hour, we love to take your phone calls and text messages at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line. And as Aaron mentioned, all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire or they're already retired. And we love to create a game plan for them so they can have a fun, financially secure, and hopefully worry-free retirement.
That sounds nice. And, there are many ways that you can keep in touch with us throughout the week. Not just listening to the show every Saturday morning, but you can log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us button, request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Or if you happen to have a question during the Saturday morning show, you can always email that to us. We check during the show so we can maybe answer your question live on the air, or we'll get back to you within 24 to 48 hours if you miss us this morning. On the lower left-hand side of the screen, you can see the pop-up box that appears. It says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner, and we do keep the last about 6 to 12 months archived on the website, along with videos, healthcare blog, a lot of other informational pieces.
A couple of webinars on there, I think.
Webinars are up there. Also, many of our shows that have been approved by compliance are up as well, so you can look back in the archives there. But Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about our June newsletter for the folks that are not currently subscribed?
And today's already the 21st. We're just zipping through this month.
No, it's actually the 22nd. I lied to you earlier.
22nd.
Sorry.
And our first article of the June 2024 newsletter is Financial Regrets. Do you have them? If so, you are not alone. 3 out of 4 adults, according to a recent survey, have them. The most common ones, taking on too much credit card debt and not saving enough for retirement earlier. And what's interesting about this article, it's got a very cool infographic where they break down the financial choices you wish you had back by age group, and seeing what cohort would like to have different choices back is It's a little fascinating, I think.
And I've been looking at a few of these every week so far. And the one that I'm looking at that I think is, many of them are, you can change course. They're reversible or you can make adjustments. But one for sure that you can alter your path if you have any regrets is not saving enough for emergency expenses. This is something that you can chat with your financial advisor about, or you can sit down if you're currently managing your own household budget and figure out, the first cornerstone of investing is ensuring that you have an emergency fund. So potentially, if you've started investing before you feel comfortable with your emergency fund, is that something you don't have to be all or nothing, but maybe you're turning the temperature down, contributing less to your retirement accounts until you feel comfortable with the money saved in the bank. And some people might see that as counterintuitive, but the reality is you don't want to have to take on credit card debt, which can be expensive and is another regret. And you don't want to have to raid your retirement accounts, which can be pricey in terms of taxes or having to make loans. So creating a little bit of savings for yourself at first, or even if you're midstream already, might make sense.
It always makes sense because there's always an emergency around the corner, whether it's right. I mean, whether it's a car, an appliance, an event, there's always going to be something, and you just have to know that as a given before you even start and make those preparations with that emergency fund.
Absolutely.
That's why we tell everyone have an emergency fund because the emergency is coming. And our next article, should you buy or lease your next vehicle? This,
yes.
You should do both.
New vehicle prices have skyrocketed. The average cost of a new vehicle now is over $48,000. I just had this conversation with my dad the other day.
I know he's looking for a new vehicle.
He was bitterly lamenting the price of used cars. He was like, Bob, 2018, I want $30,000. It's just like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. If you don't like that price, you're certainly not going to like, the new car price. But that combined with significant high interest rates on car loans right now means that, new car purchase can take a significant bite out of your budget.
What did you say the average monthly car payment is over $800 or something?
$750. It's on the wrong side of $750. I could remember when $750 would buy you a very that mortgage payment would secure you like a 3 or 4 bedroom house in a very nice and upscale neighborhood.
The days.
I remember. As part of our article in the first one, Financial Regrets, boomers are regretting not buying more houses for pocket lint and bubblegum wrappers.
I remember when gas was 91 cents a gallon.
Yeah, but that's a
that
great...
was my first fill-up, 91 cents.
From maintenance to mileage, this article on if you should buy or lease your next vehicle has definitely got you covered. And our next one, saving for college, 529 plans versus Roth IRAs. This is a very interesting article. I found it interesting. It compares which is best when saving for and paying for college expenses. These plans differ in some important ways. 529 plans can be opened by anyone. Not anyone can contribute to a Roth IRA. You have to have earned income to contribute to a Roth, and even then there are income limitations. 529 plans were specifically designed for college savings and expenses, whereas Roth IRAs are primarily a retirement savings vehicle with a college expense provision. Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is a great example. This article, I think, is a good example of what you always say, Dad, which is you should use the products or the tools the way that they were intended. But the really cool thing is, so, if you are a grandparent or a parent and you're looking to save for college for your children, a 529 plan is probably the better option. The great thing about 529 plans is if the original individual that you intended to use those funds doesn't use them, you can transfer them to another individual. So you have multiple children that are different ages entering college or needing extra expenses, or you pass it on from children to grandchildren, or the Secure Act 2.0 actually made a provision where you can have the best of both worlds, which is if your children or grandchildren, or even yourself, if you didn't use up your 529 plan, you have the opportunity to convert that over a period of time, given certain conditions have been met, into a Roth account.
Exactly, so you will not lose it. And I totally agree with with your and your dad's point about using the product the way it was intended to be using. I mean, the Roth IRA does have an education provision in there, but that's not the primary
Purpose
of the tool. So use hammers for jobs that require hammers, screwdrivers for screwdrivers. And our next article, the birthday benefit quiz. This is a fun one designed to help you understand the legal changes associated with birthdays after 50 years old.
And as it is your birthday month, I mean, we've already passed one dad holiday last week. It's in the rear view. Another one coming up this weekend.
It's the big one.
It is why is it the big one?
Because every year I'm alive, it's a big one. Huh?
That's fair. Well, we're having basically like a week of dad.
Uh-huh.
Because Tuesday, and if anybody wants to come say hello to us, we're going to go to play horse hooky at Fairmont.
Right, for the Tuesday afternoon
event.
Pre my birthday races.
Exactly, that's Tuesday. Wednesday is your birthday. I noticed that you took off from 10 a.m. forward, which you should, because you deserve.
Birthday golf day. And then Wednesday is your birthday. That's right.
And then Saturday we'll have some dinner.
Fabulous. I can't wait. I'll be starving by that time.
Because you'll have only had the chicken on Tuesday.
Exactly.
Here's one of the quiz questions. At what age is a worker eligible to make catch-up contributions to a retirement account?
It's your birthday, Dad. You think you should have the honors here?
50.
That's right.
He must have looked at the answers. But there's 10 in all.
I resemble those remarks.
And the answers are available for you.
Right, so you could test your knowledge. And we've got one more week of the June 2024 newsletter, and then we'll be on to July. And these months are just blowing by. And like Aaron says, we keep the last 12, possibly even 18 months of newsletters on our website. So they are certainly there for your downloading and perusing enjoyment.
That's right.
And our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. That's fun. You know, we're sending out thousands of these newsletters a month by email, which is why it's so inexpensive. Great to do. And we do receive, what's nice about it is that if you're a subscriber, you know that it's really a newsletter that's frankly multi-generational. It's one that your parents can enjoy, the kids can enjoy, because it's really a financial planning newsletter. There's no financial pornography stuck in there with that. Well, good. So again, while we're waiting for your calls and for your texts at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line, we'll get into our first subject today. Expectations.
It's important.
Yes.
Good to have them.
Well, you know, and we do. And when you're engaging professionals, any professional, it's important to set your expectations on what you consider to be a successful relationship. And then at the same time, relating it to that professional so that really you can be on the same page. And, you know, we do this all the time. Let's use an example. If I have a leaky faucet, which means that
You're not fixing it.
I have to call someone because I have none of those mechanical skills. I would contact a plumber or a handyman to fix the problem. I explain my problem to them and what my anticipated outcome will be, what the result is.
We'd like the faucet to stop leaking.
You know, and I certainly would expect they have the necessary skill set to fix my problem and engage me in a professional manner. I think that would be pretty fair.
Right, and those are things that are all inclusive of, you know, you select a plumber to fix a faucet. You have communication with that plumber. They'll communicate to you, I plan to be there on this date between, you know, the hours of 8 a.m. and midnight.
Well, sure. I mean,
confidence building measures.
Exactly.
Well, frankly, I think you do this with all professionals.
Sure.
And whether it's your physician or an attorney or et cetera, whatever. And in return, they expect to be paid and treated in a cordial and dignified way.
And you expect to get the results that
Exactly,
you
which is the
signed up
golden
for.
rule. You treat other people as you would like to be treated.
Right.
The real question is, have you taken the time to consider what expectations you have in working with a financial professional? And we've developed sort of a checklist or a set of questions that you might want to be asking yourself. And frankly, having a conversation with your current, if you have one, a current financial professional, and if not, maybe if you're interviewing a new one.
And I think a lot of these questions are not necessarily bad to bring along to ask of your advisor, meaning, for example, our first question is, are you seeking investment advice or investment management?
Yes. Are you a do-it-yourselfer, or are you going to be a delegator when it comes to the investment management process? That's important.
It seems like a really, really important decision when contacting a financial professional.
And you might just flip that question in a slightly different way when you're asking the professional that you're sitting with, this is really a how do you get paid question, or what services do you provide? Are you going to provide me with a financial plan only, or do you manage assets? Or do you require the management of assets?
Well, sure. I mean, and I think you have to ask yourself the question, are you ready to delegate this responsibility, or are you interested in more of a collaborative relationship? Brokers are more or collaborators. Advisors aren't. You pay someone a fee, and what happens is you've
taken on the responsibility of the investment management for you.
Exactly. And the right answer is your answer.
Right. You just have to find the professional that fits that answer.
Exactly. Finding the match. When you're seeking advice, are you seeking a single solution or a comprehensive financial plan?
So this might be, do you just have a question about Social Security? Do you just have a question about
investing or managing assets?
Or distributions from retirement accounts? How do the taxes work?
Well, I think what you're also doing is you're really kind of making a decision on what is the skill set of the person that you're dealing with, right? I mean, do they have to call somebody? Or is this something that's a part of their bailiwick? With us, I don't want to call us, my wife would certainly call me Mr. Know-It-All, but that's our job. We're supposed to know that. We're supposed to,
plans.
Right. We're creating comprehensive plans. We're dealing with financial questions and answers, as well as investment management answers, et cetera.
Right. So do you want someone that can answer tax questions, Social Security planning,
Medicare
questions, life insurance, long-term care insurance questions, or are you strictly looking for investment management?
Collaborator versus delegator again. Are you wanting a single engagement or actually establishing a long-term relationship?
And that's probably a delegator versus a collaborator as well, meaning the broker's probably only going to call you when he has an idea versus someone that you're building a relationship with. It's not just about purchasing things. It's about an ongoing relationship, getting you on track with a comprehensive plan.
And interestingly enough, this isn't a question, but I'll form it back into a question. But one thing that we do like to tell folks, especially while we're in the middle of coaching sessions, because sometimes it becomes clear that individual isn't working with an advisor, but they've been directing their own investments. Some of them say, you know what, this is something so large that I'm just really a little I don't want to do this.
Or I'm done doing this. I've done it for a while.
I'm not done doing this.
Right.
And if you're not done, that's okay. Because we like to say we don't take toys away from boys. If this is your thing and you get enjoyment and you feel like you're putting in the time, whereas Kramer would say you're doing your homework, you're doing your numbers, well, that's cool. Then you really are looking at a more collaborative relationship and not really a delegation, a fee-based relationship, which is really okay. So,
well, it's also important because when we're talking about different types of advisors, they're all paid differently. So you want to receive the level of service that you are currently paying for, and also responsibility, meaning if you're delegating to someone to make those investment decisions for you, you're paying them a fee on an annual basis.
Sure, honey.
Have them earn the fee.
Well, let's generalize this a little bit, just for a moment. Rob, you're talking about your dad. Well, you guys too. You're looking at a new car. You go into a car dealership, assuming, and again, we're assuming now today they don't have all types of different models. You're looking at a specific dealership. You go in, you're talking to the salesman. He's giving you, his information. You're driving the car, etc. You decide to make a purchase and you're done. Well, guess what? You're not thinking about this person for an oil change. You're not thinking about them for trip management.
auto body repairs.
I mean, once they've done their job, it's over. I mean, their job
like a
is
point of service sale.
exactly. Then they move you to the finance manager, if you, et cetera, and then you move on from there.
You never see that guy again.
Well,
Right,
until it's
you want to buy another car.
Right.
well, that's right. Or unless they become a friend. But I think that's kind of the point, which is you typically don't have any greater expectations of a relationship with a person you're purchasing a car with. But your money doesn't work the same way. And as Aaron was saying, is how you pay someone. If you're paying someone, if someone's paid a commission, as an example, well, that's typically
Point of service
that's
transaction.
truthfully a one transaction relationship. If you're paying someone a fee, well, that's an ongoing management relationship process. So the thing is, you have to remember or think about, is the relationship matching the way that I'm paying this person? And that's something to consider. And then the other thing, maybe the most important one is, second most important, what are the end results that you want to consider as a criteria to determine whether this was a successful arrangement or relationship? What is it? Is it a rate of return thing? Is it I'm meeting my financial goals thing? Is it I'm able to get my questions answered? I mean, what are all the expectations that you have? I think it's real important, if you can, is to express those. Hopefully what's happening in your relationship, if you have one with an advisor,
They're getting to know you. You're getting to know them.
but they're saying this is what we will do. This is what we can do. This is what we want to do. And we have a menu of things that were available to you. And then the question becomes, how much are you
Gonna
actually
take
able to do?
advantage of, and
And then
right.
number two is, what is their education? What is their training? What is their experience level in terms of dealing with that? And I think that's kind of important. And then I think really as a self-assessment thing, if you do have a current advisor, is this person capable of delivering the results that you desire, or is it time to look for somebody new? And I would tell you that in our situation with our clients, I don't know, 90% have had other advisors, because most of their advisors are what we call them, Aaron calls them accumulation advisors. But when folks come to us, we're the retirement coaches. It's time for us to help them in the distribution stages, not just during their life, but also when they're gone. And this is a very specific and different skill set to help folks pass on. And that's, I mean, as I've said to most of our clients, I feel like at the end of the day, preserve, protect, and prudently grow, deliver the income they need. That's really important. But actually, at the end, delivering their assets to the people they love in a tax-efficient way, helping them really fulfill their ultimate wishes, is really maybe our most important job that we do. And we take it very seriously. And that's why, as you probably have noticed, if you've been a listener for a while, or if you're a client, you come in to visit with us, we're talking about the Secure Act. We're talking about the changes in the IRA laws. They've been so significant, maybe the most significant change, at least in my mind, in the last 25 years. This is an estate plan. This is not just an income tax planning event where you have to empty these accounts quicker, but also it's an estate planning event, because we're looking at shrinkage happening quickly in the estates of those people that are inheriting these assets. And, what are we doing to preserve, protect that, et cetera? So nobody's talking about it. We're talking about it.
Right.
We love to talk about it because that's what we think, again, is a really important function, passing it on to the people they love.
Absolutely.
So you don't disagree with me, babe, right?
Not yet.
Well, the more that you can, well, thank you. The more that you can define, or the better that you can do to define your expectations, the better chance you have in finding someone that actually can meet them. And, it's curious because, I've, as you can imagine, over the years, I've gone to management training and things like that. And what I have found is that the more clear you are in your instructions with people, or in letting them know who you are, the better results you can have. And I think having a real candid conversation, if you have with your advisor, these are what my expectations really are. Are you meeting them? And maybe finding out whether they think they can.
Also, I think this is something
great.
that can be this is a moving target, which is what a
Right.
relationship is all about, meaning that things are going to change over time. I can think of many individuals that we've worked with that started out while they were still working, maybe even kind of outside of our normal 5 years getting ready to retire or already retired, which means our relationship was a little different. But as they start to approach retirement, their expectations change. Our expectations change as well in terms of how frequently we're meeting with them, what information we want to gather from them, timelines, things like that. All those things change over time. So having open lines of communication with your professional is going to be the best way to have an ongoing successful relationship.
They can't formulate that comprehensive plan unless they're in, I wouldn't say constant contact, but they have to know, like you talk about that runway, got to know what's on it if you want to avoid it or fall into it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little different of a relationship than with typically, let's say, your attorney or with your physician.
Even with an accountant.
Exactly, which is usually which is typically event driven. Since we're obviously coaching folks in terms of their life, we really need to know what's going on, what's changing, whether it's their health, whether it's family relationships, whether it's inheritances,
and
taxes,
also, it's not necessarily bad things. We have lots of great things that happen to clients that we want to know about too. It's when I think of physicians, or you think of accountants, or you think of lawyers.
It's like never
something
good.
negative has happened, or I've got to deal with my taxes, or I'm not feeling well. Solve this problem for me.
I like the nice ones like, hey, we're going to take the grandkids on a vacation in Europe, and how do we pay for that? I mean, I know we can pay for it. How do we pay for it?
Or before we take our break, I just got the coolest call yesterday from one of our clients, because it's a first, which is we have a client that retired early, about 61 years old, and he just turned 62. But he took a part-time job because, as you say, Dad, there was tread left on the tires at a law firm. And now he is going to be our first law student client, because he's going to go back to school, become an attorney. And he called because he wanted to make sure that we had a way that if he couldn't get the loans he was thinking about applying for, his cash flow would be able to accommodate that.
That sounds like fun.
The tuition.
So at 62, he's going back to law school. That's awesome.
Right? How
what kind
cool
of law?
Is that? I don't think he's decided yet. So, and that's funny because
Your mom will let me do that. I've threatened to go back, become like a mafia drug lawyer. I don't want to be an estate planning lawyer. I want to do something that's fun.
The whole show is now disapproved for compliance.
Why?
A drug lawyer.
Those guys end up in holes in the ground.
Right.
You never saw the last 20 minutes of Casino? They all got it.
Look, we're all going to end up there anyways.
I guess it would at least be exciting.
I mean, forget about personal injury or family law. I mean, do something fun.
Unfortunately, you'll have to move your offices.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, anyway,
I did want to be Perry Mason, but that's just another story.
That's right. Well, you know what everyone listening shouldn't do is move, because we'll be back
after these messages, so don't touch that dial.
Is your job just a job, and you want to work in a rewarding career? If the answer is yes, then start your journey today by becoming a union construction craft laborer. Why wait? Visit buildunion.com to learn more about becoming a union craft laborer and starting a rewarding career in the construction industry. Build a career, build a future, build a legacy. Buildunion.com for more information.
I'm Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I want your fixer-upper home or condo. It's crazy to spend a ton of money fixing it up when I will pay you top dollar right now. I don't even care what condition it's in. Your trash is my treasure. No inspections, no contingencies, just cold, hard cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867. That's Mike Robinson, 314-283-0867, or at robangproperties.com.
Need help with IT? CompuType IT Solutions can help. We handle cybersecurity, email, help desk, network cabling, server management, VoIP phones, CCTV, web design, and even printer and copier services. CompuType has been serving local businesses for over 35 years, and our knowledgeable team members have over 400 years of combined IT experience. Contact us at godacompu.com or call 618-688-7402. CompuType CompuType IT Solutions.
So you say you crave choices. Have you seen the Cafe Appliance line? Commercial style ranges, unique food storage options, plus quiet, convenient cleanup.
With an abundance of features plus finishes like white or black matte and stainless steel. And now you can get 6 different beautiful hardware options. Just as your style evolves, your rooms do too. From changing out throw pillows to adding new art, your home is your canvas.
Satisfy your appliance cravings with the Cafe line at any of the appliance discounter showrooms. Where, as always,
our savings are your savings.
From the country
smell of grass and the
to the city, and all points in between. Thank you for choosing KTRS. KTRS, the best darn talk radio around.
I love the Big 550 KTRS.
Your Big 550. KTRS.
Nationally known, locally owned.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back. It's 9:36 here on the Big 550 KTRS. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the unusually quiet text line this morning.
But it's starting to heat up.
I love that idea.
Getting it going.
And our first texter writes, how will the results of the presidential elections influence our investment portfolios? More stock investing or perhaps bonds? Where will the focus be?
Oh, you'd like me to take this one? I've had this conversation a few times, as one might imagine. With,
per day.
Right, with clients, even prospective clients. And I don't believe that we are going to make major changes to our portfolios based solely on the presidential election. Usually that's a short-term blip in market results. I mean, if we look back to the Trump election in 2016, the futures were off pretty significantly the night he was elected.
By that morning, I think they were up.
And not only that, the next 4 years, regardless of your opinion of him or your politics, we had some good years, 2016 through 2020. If we looked at the Biden, even the election year plus the election night, we had a huge bounce. I believe they even called it the Biden bounce. And we've had some tumultuous, I mean, we've hit new highs recently, but we've had some tumultuous years. And if we even look deeper and think about investment strategy, a lot of people focused on, as many do when Republicans are elected, aerospace and defense budget, defense spending, because Republicans tend to spend more on that area. And we took advantage, we attempted to take advantage of that in our portfolios. But then if you look at the Biden administration, they've spent just as much, if not more, on defense and military spending than the Trump administration did. So our focus is really more geared towards, first of all, our client-specific goals and needs and their risk tolerances, but then secondarily, what the overall market and economy are doing and the direction that leads. I think the president can only help or hurt so much, and usually they have lesser of an impact. They just have more of a mouthpiece.
Well, I would like to agree with you, honey.
Oh, okay.
But I don't.
Well, then, I guess we're going to have to fight it out. Let's go.
No, we won't. I think the answer I would be giving, and I have been giving to clients, is if our current president is reelected, you know where you are. Things are not going to change very much. They don't have a growth-oriented agenda. They're also looking at increasing taxes. Once the Trump tax cuts supposedly phase out, most of them in 25, they're not going to be pushing to renew. He may even veto for whatever reason. Versus Trump. He's a business guy. We had a business-oriented agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Became largest energy producers on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And taxes went down. More people were employed than forever. Basic wealth, went up. It's a different situation. So more of the same, or more of the same. The good stuff from me.
But how much would you change the portfolio allocation, which is the original question?
I don't think that I would change it a whole lot.
So
what I
agreed,
would
just
certainly
for
do is
reasons.
well, first of all, we have to, I think what you're looking at is strategic versus tactical. Strategic means, am I changing my mix? Am I getting more stock exposure, more risky? And the answer is you don't have to. Should we be a little tactical? And I think you answered the question. The answer is yeah. I think we like to be a little tactical. Do we want to add emphasis in specific areas? And then do you rotate those sectors? We'd like to think of sectors.
And I think that would be more about the first 100 days, what the direction whatever administration is in office decides to take, not just based on who is elected.
Well, we lived through 4 years of Trump. We lived through 4 years of Biden. Guess what?
We'll live through 4 years of whoever comes next.
Whoever's next. But I wouldn't run for the hills, and I wouldn't take all my
chips to the casino.
Exactly.
The floodgates have opened on the text line. Let's go.
And our next texter writes, we're both retired in our early 60s. Would it be a good idea for both of us to contribute the max amount to an HSA? What are the stipulations, and how and when can we use the funds?
So HSA stands for Health Savings Accounts. These are great because they are portable, which means if you and your wife contribute the maximum, you never lose that. It rolls over year after year for you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the maximum being that they're both on the right side of 50, I believe is $5,150 for the year.
Per person?
Exactly.
$5,150 per person, which is great as long as you both have access to the HSA account. Or if one person does, you can contribute, I believe, for the family. You can begin to use these funds the day that you contribute them. You're able to use them for all qualified medical expenses, which is not just medical. That could be dental, vision, filling prescriptions, glasses. You can check the irs.gov website under HSA, and that will also give you the full and complete list for the year, what's considered approved. But the options are pretty significant. Once you leave the plan that gave you the HSA, so let's say, for example, you and your wife, to the texter, are currently employed, and your health insurance, the health insurance your employer provides gives you access to the HSA. If you leave that employer or you retire, you can then use those HSA funds to pay if you're 65 Medicare premiums, if you're under 65 COBRA premiums, if you're bridging to Medicare using COBRA, you can use it for long-term care premiums, life insurance premiums. You have a lot of options.
Honey, also, are you? I'm assuming, can you continue to our texter here said they were retired.
Or no, that they're in their early 60s. Oh, they're both retired. Yeah, you're right.
So that means that they must have elected COBRA.
Or they have individual policies that they elected in
on
HSA.
The exchange.
Okay.
Yeah, on the exchange.
So
they can pay those with the HSA.
No, they can't pay. If they're the plan that you are on, you cannot use the premiums to pay. The HSA dollars cannot be used to pay the premiums. So like you said, Dad, if they're on COBRA or they're on a marketplace policy that gave them access to the HSA, they can't use HSA dollars to pay for either of those policies. But once they leave that policy, no longer have access to contribute to the HSA, then they can use it to pay for premiums.
Good question. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And those are triple tax advantage. You aren't taxed on the way in, you aren't taxed on the growth, and as long as you take it out for a qualified medical expense, you aren't taxed on the withdrawal either.
Exactly. You could really kind of consider them almost like
a Roth, a medical Roth.
A medical Roth that you get to take with you forever. So having 5 years almost to contribute the maximums every year it really creates a piggy bank for you where you don't have to worry. You don't have to think about Medicare premiums for quite some time, most likely.
You just stole my thought. I mean, even if you just paid your Medicare Part B premiums, it would be. I mean, you're never going to lose the money, and it will do you plenty of favors down the line.
And you get to pass it on to beneficiaries if you don't use it.
Woohoo.
No good reason not to have one.
Agreed.
And our next texter writes, I believe 529 money can be used for other post-secondary education, not just college.
We believe you as well. That is right.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Exactly. I might have accidentally misspoke and said for college expenses, but you're right. It could be for any post-secondary education. It could also be for ancillary benefits of post-secondary education. For example, if your child or grandchild's an artist or a photographer, they need
supplies.
They need supplies. They need a camera. They need editing equipment. All of those things can generally be used through the 529 plan.
There you go.
As long as you're enrolled in some kind of.
That's a nice one. Camera equipment.
Well, you have to be enrolled in I believe, like in a art school or taking photography in order to use that benefit. You can't just buy the camera. But nonetheless, we agree.
And I think we've beaten down the texters into compliance.
Well, then.
Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And why don't we take our second break of the hour before we get into, we want to talk a little bit about Frank and his retirement plan.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
A big KTRS shout out to Lisi Lumber, family owned and family operated since 1872. Lisi Lumber has built the St. Louis metropolitan area. They've worked with builders and contractors and homeowners. They provide building materials from soup to nuts. 2 hardware stores in Belleville ready to serve you. Millwork, insulating material, wallboard, roofing materials, you name it, Lisi Lumber can help because Lisi Lumber is just that much better. LisiLumber.com.
Before you put your home on the market, before you have to pay money fixing it up to sell it, before you have to pay real estate commissions, call me. I'm Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I will buy your home. Any property, any condition, anywhere, and always as is. Call me, Mike Robinson with Robank Properties at 314-283-0867. That's 314-283-0867. You have nothing to lose when you call Robank Properties at 314-283-0867.
Home equity loans are home everything loans at Neighbors Credit Union. Home improvements, vacations, educations, even debt consolidation. They're all yours with my friends at Neighbors Credit Union. Now, with the flexibility of a home equity line of credit at Neighbors Credit Union, you'll enjoy a fantastic introductory rate as low as 4.99 APR for the first 12 months. The possibilities are endless. Apply online today at neighborscu.org. Home equity lines of credit, 4.99, neighborscu.org.
Damn, this traffic jam.
Captain Paul Komsky and the KTRS Traffic Center get you to work safely every weekday morning.
Debris in the roadway on I-64 West.
And then back home weekday afternoons.
That one vehicle crash on I-70 East has been cleared.
If there's a stalled vehicle on 270 off the right shoulder or an accident on 55 at 255, you'll hear it first with Captain Paul Komsky.
Damn, this traffic jam.
On your official traffic station in St. Louis.
The Big 550 KTRS.
This is Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to our last segment this hour of Straight Talk on Retirement. We do have another hour, and we usually start that next hour with, I like to call it the Hour of Power, our Medicaid or Medicare discussion. So before we do that, I do want to talk about a situation that I had yesterday. It's Friday afternoon. 9 degrees.
Afternoon.
I'm golfing. So, well, actually, on the front nine, I wasn't really, I was hacking, but on the back nine, I was playing okay.
I hope you were staying hydrated. It's very warm.
As much as I could. And, it isn't unusual for my friends, other people, compatriots, they know who I am.
They know who you are.
They know me. And they listen to the show. they put up with my golf and, to ask questions. And so we're sitting, finished the round, and I'm lamenting, as I always do. I'm a much better advisor than I am a golfer.
Well, don't quit your day job, Dad.
Thank you, babe. At the 19th hole, so Frank, one of my cohorts, said to me, he goes, I'm 54 years old. I want to focus on retirement planning, and I'm thinking that eventually I have another 10 years left.
So about 65.
He's still a youngster. I mean, it's understandable. But he recently inherited from his mom's estate about $450,000 in assets, as well as he did in his siblings. His mom and dad had been great savers, not big spenders, and so he had a fair size inheritance. And naturally, he would like some advice. That's why he asked me a question about how can he tax efficiently get a hold of this money and help him with his retirement. And so, I did mention to him that I could certainly give some general stuff, but this wasn't really the place to truly do a coaching session. You got to have to take a
look at what's in there, what his plans are.
And I think the other important thing is that, this really gives him an opportunity, if nothing else, is to synergize what he's getting from mom with as well as what he already has. Okay. And so that was important. So, and he said, do me a favor, Jeff, give your number back over on the air. I'm like, you're right. We don't give our number out often enough.
Really? We don't.
314-863-0008. If you'd like to come in for a coaching session, we'd love to see you or talk to you or hear from you, whichever it would be. So let me just talk a little bit about Frank. His asset breakdown was he received about $40,000 in CDs and cash.
Nice.
Very nice.
Not
tax-free.
Not taxable. Nice.
Exactly. He received $400,000 in a traditional IRA.
Taxable.
And $10,000 in a Roth.
And Mom just passed away this
Exactly.
year.
Yeah. So, and let's assume they've made the required minimum distribution, so we have to mess with that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So,
which would be part of a more specialized coaching session to make sure that we've got all of those ducks in a row, not just what money's coming in.
Absolutely. And I think we've talked about this maybe even in the last show on why you want to do that. We can always revisit if somebody asks a question. But, naturally his question was, how are these assets taxed? Well, we know that the cash and really everything that's not a retirement account is income tax free.
And the Roth will be tax free too.
Woo-hoo. But he can't add it to his Roth directly.
Correct.
He has to create an inherited IRA because it came from
Roth IRA.
Mom, an inherited Roth. And Rob, he's got to do the same thing with his traditional IRA, right?
It all starts with setting up an inherited IRA. And, he'll have 10 years to empty out the $400,000. So even if we went $40,000 a year, that could push Frank into a higher tax bracket. But there are some things we can do to kind of mitigate that, aren't there?
Well, there could be for him, and we'll talk about that in a minute about how we can help him not pay so much in taxes and maybe even indirectly transfer Mom's IRA into his IRA/401k, which is something good to do. But the rules have changed, and so Frank, also we know that if his mom was, and one of the questions I had was your mom receiving required minimum distributions? And of course she was, because Frank's 50, he's 54, so Mom obviously is over 70. He also inherits her required minimum distribution schedule. So in this particular case, she was pulling out about 5% or $20,000 of that $400,000 per year. So even though he could pull out more, he has to pull out at least 20.
So does he have to pull out 20 but he split it amongst siblings? So does he have to take a fourth or the whole thing?
No, this is actually his fourth. Mom and Dad were.
No, I know, but so the 5% of the 20 of 400 is the 20. So it does get split up amongst what you received.
Yes.
So that was
absolutely.
my only point.
And his siblings are in the same position because they received the same amount as he did.
They each have to take 20 because Mom was taking about 100.
Exactly. Which was kind of fun. And so it's kind of neat to have an IRA that big, right?
Absolutely.
Well, the difference here also is that at 70, you're pulling 4%.
At 80, It's more.
That's right. I mean, 90 you're like at 10%, but at 80 you're like at 5%. Well, 5%'s 20% more than
4%.
Exactly. Well, it is. So it makes it makes the number large.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, et cetera. So, you know, in their case, you go from almost maybe pulling 60, at 4%, you'd be pulling 64, but at 5%,
80 almost.
Exactly. So the numbers are large. So what could we do in this particular case to mitigate the income taxes on those traditional inherited IRA distributions that we had to make? What can we do?
Well, first thing we could do is, well, you'd have to ask Frank if he is making maximum retirement account contributions. Also, if Frank is married, you didn't mention that, if his spouse is making the maximum contributions to their retirement accounts.
So let's fill in the puzzle a little bit here. Frank said, yeah, he's making a contribution to his 401k of about $10,000.
Okay.
And his wife is making a contribution of about $10,000. So together they're putting in 20, but we know they could be putting in 30.
So that's 40,000. 30 combined or 30 individually?
30 individually.
Combined.
30 individually.
You're right.
So that means 40. They have space for 40,000
right.
each.
That's a whole year of distributions.
That if we divide it by 10, right? If we divide it evenly up, that would certainly cover more than the required minimum.
Right.
But also, what it would do is it would obviously reduce the account values, and then obviously as growth occurred in those accounts, because they're going to have to take out more and more, and the RMD is going to keep going up. So this was kind of an interesting situation where we could truly mitigate the entire tax liability on the distribution for him to do that. Now, with the Roth, there was an issue, right? Because Roth, it was tax-free when it was put in, Roth tax-free when it comes out.
And I've been thinking a lot about this because, like, when does it make sense to pull the money from the Roth, the beneficiary Roth? It's not taxable, but you have to do it by the 10th year mark.
Because there are no required minimum distributions from a Roth IRA.
Right, so you don't have a minimum to meet every year.
Yes.
Your maximum is the account value by the 10th year. I would say unless you have a reason to pull the money.
Let it grow.
Right, because it's growing income tax deferred inside of there. At the 10th year, you pull it out, you're more money non-taxable to you.
Let's see what that race of $10,000 could be after 10 years.
Well, the only reason that you might do that, or it still might make sense,
unless there's another reason to pull it,
is if you have a Roth and you're eligible to make a contribution to a Roth, then I would pull from mom's Roth or your inherited Roth and put it into your Roth because
you're making a non-taxable situation non-taxable.
Exactly. And if you don't, if you make the distribution let's say you pull it all out at the end of the 10th year, well, you may only be able to put in 1 year's worth of contributions.
You will miss out on the other 9 years.
Exactly. Depending on the size.
Also, depending upon the rest of your inheritance, like, for example, when we're talking about Frank, he's got at least $40,000 a year to deal with in order to liquidate the IRA in that 10-year mark.
Right.
So if he's maxing out the traditional side of his 401k, it's unlikely, you have to take a look at the income limitations that you would also be able to contribute to a Roth.
You're absolutely right, honey. And so think about this, though. Let's make this even more fun.
Even more fun, listeners.
Well, sure. Even more fun. Let's assume that Frank he didn't want to wait 11 years till 65. He's 54 to retire. What if he decided he wanted to retire at 62? Well,
he could live off of some of those last.
Well, look at his options. So we know that he has to pull for 8 years.
Right.
Okay. In the last 2 years, if he's retired and his income has gone down, as most people's do, because they're living off of, we're designing based on what their expenses are, what they're spending, not on what their
gross pay was.
He's got a lot of options here. He could, in theory, pull out less during the 10 years and then
pull out a lot more on those last two.
Exactly.
Budget for those 2 years, the interregnum.
Right. Exactly. And defer as much as, or a part or as much as he can until those last 2 years. Every situation is different. And, what's nice here is that the IRS has given us some flexibility in terms of deciding. I mean, we only have two rules, right?
Yep.
Rule number 1 is don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after these messages for hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back, everyone, to hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement.
It's our favorite hour.
It's Medicare.
Because you care. We talk Medicare.
That's right. Let's talk a little bit about Kent and Sherry.
Kent is 72 and is finally retiring at the end of the year from almost 30 years of being a trucking company's logistics expert. You know, you just can't throw that stuff on the truck and just drive
Hope it gets there?
No, it doesn't work like that.
There's planning and there's logistics involved.
Right. You just think, oh, I just walk it up there with the hand truck. No, actually you don't. Not how it works. Sherry, his wife, will be 65 in October, and she's retiring from her executive work at BJC at the end of the year. And Ken and Sherry, they file taxes jointly. And in 2022, they had an adjusted gross income of $350,000 from their salaries and other investments. Last year, their son was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. In order to help alleviate some of those costs for his son, Ken took out $30,000 from his retirement accounts to help pay for all the necessary cancer treatment.
Yep. So for things like travel, radiation, and hotel stays that unfortunately food, gas that aren't covered under their health insurance expenses. So, you know, Kent and Sherry said they were told that when they came onto Medicare, it would cost about $174.70 a month. But they talked to an individual at Social Security, and in order to start preparing for their retirement, that he said they would probably be paying a lot more because their adjusted gross income first in 2022 was $350,000, but in 2023 it was $320,000 plus the additional $30,000, bringing them up again to that $350 number. So they were concerned that they would have to be paying a lot more due to their adjusted gross income because many individuals on Medicare know, and some people that are planning for their retirement know, that Medicare Part B has an income-related adjustment for individuals that were considered high-income earners.
And, you know, Ken and Sherry had some questions. Is this a lifetime payment? I mean, will they both have to pay the higher price?
Exactly. So many of you, if you are subject to the income adjustment, have seen on your Medicare bills, if you receive them in the mail, or you've seen on your Social Security statements, the income-related monthly Medicare adjustment. And essentially what this is what you must pay above and beyond the standard Medicare amount for your Medicare Part B premiums, and in some cases for your Medicare Part D premiums. And for those of you on, you know, if you've elected a Medicare Advantage plan and you have a zero premium policy, that Part D premium adjustment will still apply even if you're paying zero. You'll just pay those few extra dollars more potentially.
So if Ken and Sherry were coming on to Medicare in, say, 2024, Social Security would use their 2022 tax return to determine how much their Part B premiums and Part D will cost.
Exactly. But because they're coming, and so there's a 2-year look back, but this 2-year look back happens every single year. So if they were coming on this year in 2024, Social Security would look at 2022. We know Kent and Sherry are actually going to join Medicare in 2025, which means they're going to look back at 2023. We know 2023 they had basically the same income, even though the income was taken differently, they still had the same income amount. So a common question is, we're not going to be making that much money in retirement because we no longer have our wages. How long is this going to last? Like I said, every year there's a 2-year look back. So that means in 2026, a year after they've been on, they're going to look back at 2024, so on and so forth.
Eventually they'll get beyond the 2-year window where their income, in theory, will have dropped.
Exactly.
And then their premium will correspondingly drop as well.
Exactly. But for many individuals, just like Kent and Sherry, they have the opportunity to appeal the income-related monthly adjustment amount.
So just because you've been assessed a certain amount doesn't mean you're completely without a chair when the music stops. You do have an appeal process that you can go through.
Exactly. And the main reason for appeals would be what I just said. It's a life-changing event. Kent and Sherry are both retiring at the same time, which means they can both appeal to Medicare to say, we're no longer going to be receiving our salaries that we received in 2023. We're actually going to earn X amount, inclusive of Social Security, plus any distributions from retirement accounts that they can project. And since they are working with us as financial clients, we can assist them in filling that form out. Frank, our Medicare expert, actually provides the form to everyone that needs to file the appeal, and then we obviously help assist in terms of filling that out for them. There are some things that are not appealable. So that $30,000 that Kent and Sherry had to withdraw from their retirement accounts to, pay for those extra ancillary medical expenses, that's not appealable, because basically Medicare says you have the money because you took it out of your retirement account, or Social Security says that, whereas the difference in wages would be you don't have the wages anymore, so we can adjust that. If you're in this position because maybe you sold a second home, you had capital gains, that's not going to be appealable. If you're someone that has been making Roth conversions over the last several years as you approach Medicare eligibility, so you're taking money from your traditional IRA,
paying the taxes, claiming the income,
having to claim the income, that is not appealable either.
We can put that on another reason not to do.
Well, it's it's a reason not to do the Roth conversion, or it's a reason to stop doing your Roth conversions. If you plan to retire at 65, 62 should be the last year that you do your Roth conversion, because at 63, that income is going to be countable against your Medicare premiums. So not only are you paying the taxes, but you will be paying 2 years down the road a higher Medicare premium. The higher premium, because there's a 2-year look back every year, guys, is only 1 year. So you're only, if you think of it, penalized for that long-term capital gain sale if you had a second home, or your Roth conversion, you're only penalized for 1 year. But let's say in that Roth conversion example, you did Roth conversions all the way up till 65. Well, you've got 2 years to contend with, because Medicare is going to look back at 63 and at 64.
And they're going to be like, hey, you can afford higher premium, right?
You got the money. It's just somewhere else.
You bought the ticket.
Right.
Now you're taking the ride.
Well, right, you're just paying more, essentially. I don't think your mic's on right this second, Dad. You took a extended break. So, anyway, but basically what you said is you're just paying more. Yes, so you're piling taxes on top of taxes. So you want to be careful while you're doing that to make sure that you are not creating any unknown taxes for yourself. Sometimes these things are unavoidable. Like if Kent and Sherry had to take a substantial amount out of their retirement accounts for whatever reason to help pay for medical expenses, that's unavoidable.
Well, or even to pay off their mortgage, which a lot of folks want to do when they retire.
Right. And also the other important thing to consider is when you are designing your portfolio with your advisor, or you're designing your portfolio, because like you mentioned before, Dad, maybe you're a do-it-yourselfer, you want to be clear on what is considered part of your income for Medicare Part B versus just what is taxable income. For example, those of you that like to use municipal bonds in your after-tax accounts, because that interest is tax-free to you, it is included in your Medicare Part B adjustment amount. So they're going to add that income back in again. So you just want to be careful and can either consult with your tax advisor or have an extended conversation with the individual that helps you select your Medicare if they feel comfortable in explaining to you this is how a few of those things work.
Good question.
Absolutely. And, it's important because the income adjustment really can throw off your
game plan.
Your game plan, because
by a lot.
So I was going to say, Rob, if you want to go through, let's just talk about the married filing jointly for this moment. If anyone has questions, or an individual and you have questions on the income-related monthly Medicare adjustment amount, you just let us know and we'll obviously provide that info.
I will tell you, I didn't have any question. Medicare was nice enough to go, here it is.
Well, and you actually bring up a good point, Dad, before we get into the numbers, Rob, which is your initial letter from Medicare that says, welcome to Medicare, your Medicare Part B premium will be, most likely they're going to quote you the $174.70 on the first letter that you received.
And you can't hold them to it if you actually earn more.
you can't hold them to it.
No, because then you get letter number 2 that says, oh, by the way.
Exactly. So the first letter is essentially, just think of the first letter you receive from
As
the
an
Center
introduction?
From the Center for Medicare Services, which is that you enrolled, good work, your effective date is X. Either you owe this amount or it's coming out of your Social Security, depending upon if you've taken Social Security yet or not. Then you're going to get another letter or a bill in the mail, if you're not on Social Security, that says this is actually what you owe. They're going to include the adjustment in the second letter or the second notice to you. If you have already filed your appeal, that is when you would want to double check with the Social Security office that you sent your appeal into. Hey, did you receive my appeal yet? If you haven't appealed because you know that you're just going to owe that much, then you know what to budget. And Rob, give us just a few of the thresholds to budget for.
I am going to add sound effects, by the way. I just want to let you know.
Married filing jointly, less or equal to $206,000, you pay your standard $174.70.
So married filing jointly, and I'm sorry we missed one of Kent and Sherry's questions. Both couples that are filing jointly owe the same premium amount. It doesn't matter where the income came from, whose retirement account, whose wages.
Right.
You're both subject to the same premium.
If you're between $206,000 and $258,000, it goes up to $244.60.
So we're going to add basically
$70.
Right, $70 on the Medicare Part B, but this is also where the Part D adjustment comes in too. You're going to pay almost $13 a month on that too.
Between $258,000 and $322,000, you're going to pay $349. So it's basically double at that point. It's the $174.70 times 2.
Not fair. Not fair.
No, not at all. And the last one, if you married filing jointly, greater than $750,000 is $594. So you can see as you go up the ladder, your Part B premiums, they're climbing with you.
Right, and especially on that last one, over $750,000 of adjusted gross income, you're going to pay almost $600 in Medicare premiums and another $81 in the Part D premium adjustment. A $700 nearly hit to your budget is going to make a big difference while you are planning for retirement. In a lot of cases, we're just subtracting about $200 off of Social Security benefits to account for Medicare premiums. Most people pay for the rest of their medical expenses through normal cash flow. So when we calculate how much does it cost you every month to run your life, that's essentially already incorporated. But knowing that we're going to have to add that extra income either for a protracted amount of time, maybe it's 1 year because you sold a condo or something along those lines, or if it's going to be for an extended period of time because you're on Medicare, but maybe you're a high income earner, you're a consultant, or you just decided you didn't want to stay on your company plan, but you've elected Medicare, we want to make sure that that we're incorporating those expenses.
I resemble that remark. And it was painful.
Well, you're a consultant now?
Yeah, well, I'm whatever you tell me I am, honey. I'm an employee
That's
now.
Cute.
But no, it certainly is something that you have to consider very carefully. And I would just say as an aside, being a newly enrolled Medicare person, it made us look at Medicare Advantage very much more carefully. With that income adjustment that you're getting on top of not just the base Medicare premium, but also on D, makes it very expensive.
Yes. Like you said, almost $700 a month more than you were planning.
Right. Makes it very expensive. So the real question becomes, that's a part of the algebra problem you have to incorporate.
Absolutely.
No, good.
We got one more Medicare question, or one more health insurance question before we end our segment.
And our next texter writes, did I hear you earlier say you can use your HSA to pay long-term care premiums if you're no longer contributing because you're retired and over 65?
You can use your HSA dollars to pay for long-term care premiums as long as the long-term care policy you were paying premiums on is considered qualified. That's the first criteria. The second two that our texter mentioned, no longer contributing and retired over 65, those are not qualifiers. So you can actually use your HSA dollars, even while you're on the HSA plan itself, to pay for long-term care premiums as long as the policy is qualified.
And you'll know that when you look at the front page of your policy, unless you call your agent.
Right, or you call your agent just to confirm.
Most of the time, almost all long-term care contracts that are issued by major insurers
are qualified
because they have to meet 2 of 6 ADLs. Therefore, so the benefits become tax-free on the way back.
Premiums you cannot pay for on your HSA if you're on the plan is the plan's premiums itself until you leave the plan. Then other plans other health plans become eligible for you to pay those premiums, but you can't be on the original plan that created the HSA and pay those premiums with those dollars and have them be tax-free. I think that's where the difference is there.
Yeah, you have to
have left the plan that created the HSA.
You have to talk with someone that understands the rules. That's what the big deal is. Absolutely.
And before you make any decisions, if you consult with a tax professional or you have a financial advisor, you might want to just call and run it past them what your plans are in any of these scenarios to make sure you're staying on the right track so you don't owe taxes on money that you intended to be tax-free.
Amen.
Should we get to our next texter, or should we take our first break of the hour?
Let's take our first break, and when we get back, we have an excellent question about a Roth account.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
The Cardinals host the Reds Sunday, June 30th, and that day is all about the kids. 10,000 kids ages 15 and younger entering with a ticket will be able to field like the pros when they receive their very own Rawlings Kids baseball glove. Come early to enjoy prizes, games, and free frozen treats in the Ford Plaza at Prairie Farms Ice Cream Sundays prior to every Sunday home game. For tickets and details, visit cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Nolan Arenado, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
L is for Let's, G is for Go, C is for Cardinals. Celebrate the ABC's The Cardinals Way at Busch Stadium on Sunday, June 30th. It's Sesame Street Day at the ballpark with something for fans of all ages. With the purchase of a theme ticket, fans can select either a Cookie Monster bobblehead or an Oscar the Grouch plush. Wearing Cards jerseys, of course. That's Sunday, June 30th, Sesame Street Day at the ballpark. For details or tickets, visit cardinals.com/theme.
This is Brendan Donovan, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement. We love doing this every Saturday morning for you. It's 10:23 here on the Big 550 KTRS. We're answering your phone calls. 314-931-5877 and the text line, which has been heating up at 84126.
We've got a few more to get to.
Part B premiums have woke people up, and our next texter writes, is there a more equitable method to calculate Part B premiums for high-income individuals? In other words, is it fair for all Medicare B participants to pay the same premium?
You know, if they cared about my opinion on this question, I probably wouldn't be here, right? I mean, it's probably not fair because you're all getting the same services covered under your Medicare Part B premium, but just like our tax code is progressive, the Medicare Part B premium code is also progressive as a way to
I think oppressive
cover
is more appropriate. Huh?
That's, personal opinions aside, unfortunately,
it's not right. And when when you're hearing on the television, you're hearing from politicians saying
rant forthcoming.
No. That people that earn more don't pay their fair share. They pay more than their fair share.
Well, there are taxes that people don't consider for higher income individuals that they are paying when it's not just about income taxes. We have Medicare Part B premium adjustments, Part D adjustments, Social Security wage-based adjustment, things like that. So, yes, It might not be fair, but that's all the more reason to take advantage of the tax code, take advantage of this information that you have, and make every attempt to structure your income in a way that maybe it's unavoidable that you pay a higher premium, but hopefully you don't have to pay the $591 every month to Medicare. So strategizing and using the rules to your advantage is, I guess, the only thing that we can say positive about it.
So what you're really saying is, if you're complaining, nobody's listening. Okay.
I didn't say that.
I'm good with that.
I'm not a fan of our clients paying more for anything.
No, I don't disagree, but I think that fair is when you walk into the grocery and you pay the same amount for a loaf of bread as the next person does.
Actually, I believe fair is what you pay to ride the bus. That is what Grandpa used to say.
Okay.
I like that.
Moving forward.
Which one did you like?
The fare is what you pay to ride the bus.
That's right.
I mean, Medicare for All sounds great. I mean, if I could get on one of these Medicare Advantage plans, I would.
Medicare for All would have been less expensive than the ACA, but that's a story for another day.
You open up
the premiums are a free-for-all as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, my God, it's insane.
Continue. You open up the premiums to everyone. You get a bunch of healthy people paying their Part B premiums, offsetting the cost for older sick.
Yeah.
Talking about risk pools on a Saturday morning.
I'll have this thing solved in 20 minutes.
Let's get back to our Roth. Let's get back to
more important
topic.
You and your mother-in-law, trust me, you will.
Oh, that's a good boat to be in.
That's an excellent boat. Okay, our next texter. Because of the lack of choices on higher fees, I'm going to open a new Roth IRA outside of my employer-sponsored plan. My plan is to initially leave my current Roth with its current plan. I'm 58 and know the new Roth is subject to the 5-year rule. What happens if and when I merge those accounts down the road?
So the nice thing is, if you plan to open your Roth, let's just use today as the example, June 22nd, 2024. The clock begins on your Roth as long as you have $1 in the account. When you merge
on all future dollars.
On all future dollars. It's the clock began June 22nd, 2024.
So he's going out to June
22nd, 2029.
2029.
So any dollar you contribute between now and 2029 will be backdated to the original inception date. When you execute that rollover of your Roth 401k into the Roth IRA that you created, those funds will also be backdated to June 22nd, 2024, meaning that if you wanted to make a distribution on June 23rd, 2029, all of those funds, as long as you were over 59 and a half, would meet that 5-year rule. My thought would be, if the reason you are creating the new Roth is because you don't like your current choices and you think the fees are high, you might also take the next step in asking your employer-sponsored plan, do they allow for in-service distributions? And you might consider moving those Roth funds into your newly created Roth account, because you're still waiting the 5 years regardless, and now you can alleviate some of the fees on your already accumulated Roth dollars inside the 401k. It's a tax-free movement, and because it's an in-service distribution, you're not limited to the Roth annual contribution amounts. So you could have new choices and you could alleviate some of your fees on the fund that you've already added.
I think the bottom line here is that by starting a separate Roth IRA today, what you're doing is you're actually getting the 5-year clock ticking.
Right. So you're doing a lot of things to your advantage.
So it's a good idea. And, certainly, as Aaron mentioned, you could do an in-service distribution to that new Roth IRA. And then you could also then continue to make contributions to the old Roth IRA.
And every 6 months or every year,
you can move it on over.
Well, especially if you want to make a contribution to your Roth 401k that's
much
actually
higher,
greater than the $7,000 limit with the non-employer sponsored Roth IRA.
Exactly.
Good idea. So follow that. That's not a bad deal, right?
And our next texter writes, any way to get forgiveness on the late enrollment penalty? I believe he's speaking about the Part B.
Part B or Part
D.
This is a hard one. I've attempted on a few occasions to help write appeal letters for the late enrollment penalty. It really depends on why you were late enrolling. If you received incorrect information, it's a possibility.
And you really need to provide proof.
Yes.
You've gotten relief on that one?
I've gotten relief a single time on that one.
Nice.
I've done maybe 5 though, so my batting average is pretty low.
Well, the threshold is pretty high for them to
alleviate the penalty.
Exactly.
Yes. So, but there is no reason not to try. There's literally no reason. It costs you nothing to appeal other than your time, which, depending upon the severity of your penalty, you may say it's worth it, or you just object to the penalty, you say it's worth it. I would give it a shot, but I would say that it really hinges on why, and unfortunately, literally written into the rule is that your own ignorance is not a reason to forgive the penalty, which is unfortunate because there's no hard and fast information out there, unfortunately, for people to consume, and the government doesn't notify you that you need to enroll. These are electable benefits, meaning just Social Security, you elect it. You go to the Social Security Administration and say, I would like my income. Even when you get to 70, you have to elect. They don't tell you it's time to take it. They don't just send you a check in the mail. With Medicare, you elect it. You're eligible at different points in your life. Different people are eligible at different times, but you have to be proactive in the election process, which unfortunately puts the burden on you to know what you're supposed to be doing. But we'd be happy if you want to give us a call, 314-863-0008. We're always happy to flex the muscle and see if we can help out. It gives us some experience too.
Just a little add-on comment. Our texter had private insurance at the time.
Yeah, that's going to be a rough one, but you might be able to swing it by saying the insurance company didn't let you know that you were no longer eligible because it's not a qualified Medicare plan. That's a possibility. So if you had individual insurance and you never received, like, for example, you had Anthem Blue Cross, which is a pretty popular individual policy. Anthem never contacted you and said you need to make a move because this is no longer considered qualified coverage under Medicare. That might be the angle that I would take.
Yeah.
Couldn't hurt to try.
Exactly. Right. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And while we're waiting for your calls and texts, let's go to and answer a question. How do I become a rock star in retirement? Well, I think it's real important to start by maybe defining what is a rock star. Let's get our expectations in line with each other.
Let's go back to our first topic of the day.
Exactly. We feel that you're a rock star if you have more than sufficient income resources and or capital to meet your needs.
If and when, because it could happen later.
Yes, and I think what's important here is the question is, what's my number? Well, I will tell you that everyone's number is different. So we're going to give you the magic
formula. Yeah. And this is important.
And by the way, it's such magic because we give it out every week.
And I think the key here is to meet your needs. So this isn't general. The formula is general because you plug your own numbers into it, but you're plugging your own information into this formula. So, and I also think this is great because it can actually really help individuals that are approaching retirement set a realistic goal that is achievable versus I read you need at least $2.3 million in order to retire.
Work forever.
Maybe that's not the case. So this is going to give you a goal that you can work towards that actually reflects your needs, not a generalized idea.
And let me just add to this. If you consider that individual retirement accounts did not come into existence until 1990, the folks that are really considering retirement now are baby boomers. Are the folks that are at the end of this. So they didn't have their entire working lifetimes to contribute to 401ks, to contribute to IRAs, Roth, all that kind of stuff. So
when did the baby boomer generation start? Because you're a boomer and you worked for almost 20 years before retirement accounts came into existence.
That's right.
46 to 59, I believe, is that cohort.
Right.
So 46.
Right. Your mom and I are at the end.
So that means if you were at the beginning of the baby boomer generation, you could have been working 30 years before you even had access.
That's right.
Maybe you had pension options available to you, but not every company was offering that. So
They certainly didn't. So let's talk about Joe and Sandy as an example.
Joe and Sandy.
Joe and Sandy, at their normal retirement age,
So
they will
67?
Yes. As of today, that's normal retirement age.
Okay.
They will have $840,000 in retirement and non-retirement, non-vault assets.
So this is
outside
less
their
the
emergency
fund,
Right.
840,000.
After reviewing their income statement, expense statement, they told us that they really need $6,500 per month to make their life work. They still have a little bit of a mortgage,
Okay.
which is fine. So as we know, because that's net spending, we need to gross that up for taxes. We always increase it by 20%.
And that brings them close to about $8,000 a month.
Right. Joe has a pension of $2,400 a month. Social Security is actually is a couple thousand a month, and so is Sandy's. We had determined that their deficit ran to be approximately $1,800 a month.
Or about $21,000 a year.
Now, using a prudent rate of withdrawal, 4%, and everybody's heard of the 4% rule, which we believe in. If we take $21,600, we divide that by 4%, that comes out to be $540,000.
Well, within the safety zone.
Also, $540,000 is Joe and Sandy's number. They've
That's
already
their number.
met that.
That's right. That's the number. They have 840. They need 540, as Rob was saying. 21,000 is only 1/4% of 840,000.
So they're like mega rock stars.
They're like Sonny and Cher.
I just love how the formula.
They're Captain and Tennille.
The formula doesn't change. It's just Joe and Sandy's numbers, or it could be, it could be Sally and Rick. It could be whoever. Your numbers get plugged in, and we figure out what your number is.
Right, and if anybody needs a review of the formula, how much do I need every month? Gross that up for taxes, because you live off net spending right now, so we have to reincorporate taxes. But we don't have to incorporate savings, 401k contributions, anything like that. We're only going to incorporate taxes. Subtract out your fixed income, which for some people...
Sources.
Right, for some people might be pensions.
In Joe and Sandy's case, they had both their Social Securities and Joe's pension, and then you have your deficit.
Multiply that by 12 and divide it by 4%, and that gives you...
Here's what's important.
What you need.
The numbers are the numbers. Period. That's just what it is that we can algebraically go back and go, okay, this is what you need.
This is the science behind it. We're not discussing investment products. We're not discussing
right. Then
mix.
Then what we're talking about doing then is developing a portfolio that will deliver that prudent withdrawal, that will beat and or meet that prudent withdrawal rate of 4% over a long-term period of time. If you don't mind, let me just inject this. Up until 12 months ago, it wasn't CDs. It wasn't money market accounts.
Certainly not.
Certainly for almost the last 10 years, it wasn't.
20, really, if you think about it. Yeah.
Minimum.
Right. Got to go back pretty significantly.
We also didn't imagine that there would be 20% inflation, which still hasn't gone away in many areas on stuff. Even though the rate
in any area.
Right, the rate of increases may be diminishing, but the actual core increase hasn't been diminished at all. Hopefully, the next administration will find that this is a priority and deal with that. But the numbers are always the numbers. It doesn't matter. If you say, I need $6,000 a month, I need $8,000 a month, I need $3,000 a month to make my life work, your life is your life. We plug in your spending, we increase it by taxes to make it a gross number. We then reduce your sources, the ones that you can count on, those sources. We come up with a deficit if you have a deficit.
Right.
Our job is to fund that income. To do that, we'll call it replace a part of your paycheck.
I just find that this formula can become very empowering for individuals, especially when you use your own numbers, because if you're working towards, I think Rob and I just had a first financial coaching session.
And they didn't think they were but they were super rock stars.
Right. Not only did they not think that they were rock stars, but we found that in retirement, they were going to have no deficit whatsoever. So being able to sit down, and they were approaching retirement age. Their goal was about 2.5, 3 years from now. And if you have a number, more is, what I was going to say is, more is always better. Everybody feels that way about most things, especially money. More is always better. But what's what I actually need to make this work, and being able to not only find that your glide path, what you created for yourself, because most people that we sit down with have a good idea of what their numbers are and what their goals are. We're just really what, like you like to say, a confirmation dad for those people. Or being able to illuminate for people, no, you've actually, the path you're on is the right one. You don't need a random number that you read on Yahoo Finance. You need this number based on your lifestyle.
And I think also, to sharpen the pencil here a little bit, the next step then is identifying specific assets that are designated to deal with the milk money. And we love to do that, because then what's happened, as an example, in Joe, in this particular case, we've got $540,000 of assets we need to maintain to generate the income, i.e. the milk money, as I like to call it.
So what about that other 300?
Well, now we're talking about fun. So that when they call and say, you know what, I need the next car. Okay. We haven't talked about the sources. Is some of it Roth? Is some of it non-retirement? Or is it investment? Is it all in an IRA? Then we can have fun being a little more tax efficient. Is this, because the question always becomes, is this nest expense, especially if it's a large one, a wedding, whatever, is this going to tip the apple cart? Or I've made a decision that I want to assist in my grandchildren's education. Or, there are a lot of important decisions. We can go, okay, we can make that work, either from an income point of view or from a capital point of view, because you're a rock star. We know that we have the milk money. There are also, unfortunately, times where, guess what? It doesn't work. And we have to, and it's our job as their advisor, as a fiduciary with them in this relationship, is to say, it doesn't work. Or this is going to tip the cart. At the end of the day, if you really look at this from an algebra point of view, and again, I got A's in algebra, but who didn't when you were a kid, right? I did not. Well, you did, because you didn't want to, honey. That was it. But this is a balanced equation.
Sure.
Income equals expenses. So what occurs here is that the way you're going to influence this is one of two ways. Either what we're going to do is we're going to try to grow our capital faster.
Which is not a guarantee.
Which is not always easy either. And there's no guarantees when it comes to growing money or dealing with expenses.
Which we can much more easily control.
And I will tell you that we aren't credit managers, but we are certainly debt managers. And it is unusual for us to visit with a client and to really kind of identify, say, you know what, if we can take out this expense, whether it's a car loan expense, whether it's
a mortgage
expense, whether it's a college educational, whatever it would be, if we can take this out of your money, out of your expense budget, what happens then is that our income is more valuable. It's easier to reduce expenses than it is to increase capital. That's just the truth of it.
And you know what else is the truth? One of our listeners just enhanced the formula by saying, instead of, and for everyone out there, instead of dividing your annual income number by 4%, you can multiply it by 25. I didn't even think about it like that.
Okay, well,
which is just, for example, with Joe and Sandy, they needed $1,800 a month or $21,600 a year. If you multiply it by 25, you get $540,000.
Beautiful.
We just say divide by 4% because we want to reiterate that the 4% withdrawal rate is what we're pegging that number to.
Right. So, nice way. Again, there's a logical way to look at this.
Yes.
It's something you can grasp onto. And what's kind of fun is that when we're doing coaching sessions with clients and prospective clients, we create their game plan right in front of them.
With their numbers.
With their numbers. It's up on our whiteboard. It's electronic. We save it.
And then we refer back
That's
to
our
it.
roadmap. And
Right.
that truthfully becomes the roadmap for the future. And then obviously if we have to change numbers, we
Or
certainly
the
do.
cool thing is we get to run a bunch of different scenarios. Like, for
That's right.
example, we knew that...
The mortgage was going away.
Right, so we could say, let's subtract out the mortgage. How much better does this make things? Or we know when you get to 67, you're going to be in great shape. What happens if you want to retire before that? Let's take a look at what our other alternative options might be.
Well, and again, when we talk about the Social Security election strategy, well, does one take early or do both take early? Or should we wait?
Or
how does that affect?
How do we make up that difference in the time that we turn
That's
on
right.
that faucet and the time we're retired?
How does that change the ultimate milk money? And the answer is, guess what? We know, because we can say, we're not giving you, you're not receiving X.
So we have to account for that.
We multiply that by 12. We had, times the number of years. We have to add that to the capital. So it's something that we truly can measure.
It's a moving target in a way, or it can be.
But it's measurable.
Right.
But everybody's math is just a little bit different because everybody's life is their spending habits are a little bit different.
And also this helps us account for extraordinary capital expenses. For example, we have many clients that have weddings coming that have grandchildren they want to pay for things, or they have goals like they want to buy an RV when they retire, they want to sell this place, they want to buy something else.
Graduation presents.
One-offs. We can incorporate all of those expenses into their game plan, as long as, going back to our first segment, we have open lines of communication.
Well, and then just finally, when we're with folks in coaching sessions and we're reviewing account performance, which we certainly do, and we do this once every 6 months, once every 4 months, however often we're seeing them. We're looking at where they are and where they were. We're looking at their withdrawals. In the good years, if they're in a situation where they're earning more than we're pulling, they're seeing they see their capital grow. In years where we're earning less than they're pulling, they see their capital diminish. But we still know what the milk money is. It isn't unusual, and it truly isn't, that, and this is the picture I have in my mind. When folks come in and visit, it's like they have their arms all around their money. And the question becomes, how much can I squeeze out of this? And that's not really, and that's what they think, but the truth is that's not really what it's about. It's about how much of my paycheck do I need to replace. We don't have to replace 100% of your paycheck.
You don't live to it 100% of it now.
That's
the
right.
government gets a nice chunk of it.
Right. Most people are living on 60% of their paycheck. If they're making reasonable 401k contributions, retirement plan contributions, plus their FICA, plus their health insurance, et cetera, et cetera.
And income taxes.
That's right. 60%. Well, you may be, and we have many of our clients that are actually saving money, that we're saving money from that net amount. Well, we don't need to worry about saving anymore.
Just don't spend it.
Right. What is the true net? That's why we're always talking about net spending. How much are you actually spending? Because your life is your life. We're going to attempt as best we can is to duplicate the cash flow that's necessary for you to continue that lifestyle. Because you're not going to spend more in retirement. Spend the same thing.
Most people don't change who they are.
Well, it's not only that. It's just that they make exchanges.
Sure.
Instead of the expense of driving to work, well, maybe it's driving somewhere on vacation. That's fine. They're still eating out. They're still doing leisure activities. Maybe they're doing a little bit more, but they're also doing, and everything doesn't cost money. How many of our clients actually go to the gym or participate in some type of a program? Well, a lot of them do.
But they were already paying for it, and every time you go, it's not an expense. You're paying a monthly amount to get your...
And for those that weren't and they're starting something new, well, guess what? They're going free. Or they have a health insurance plan that's actually paying for that gym membership. Woo-hoo.
Oh, and there's like the transfer agreement type of thing where, the money you were spending on going to work every day is not just being reallocated somewhere else. So it's, you didn't spend anymore, but you didn't necessarily save anymore. It's just a wash.
Which is why we don't incorporate the expense of work into our planning, because we just assume, like you said, Rob, it just gets absorbed somewhere else.
Well, put grasshoppers.
And when inflation starts to get a little...
You like hearing yourself just like parroted back.
Just not going to have that cup of orange juice for $9. I won't do it.
Well, honey, I will tell you to respond to what you said.
Yes. Little disciples.
Where you are, which I appreciate. You are your mother, though, so that makes you much smarter than me. So
Aww.
What it comes down to is, especially a lot of the things that you're getting, whether it's on television, radio, TV, many of the people that you're getting information from
do not have clients.
They aren't responsible for this stuff, so they don't see it. So I can tell you that having done this religiously and exclusively for over 20 years, there's certain things you get to understand. One of them is this notion that there's a cost to go to work, and that cost gets absorbed back in. So people say, well, Jeff, how do you guys account for inflation? It's called we don't.
We account for it in a lot of other ways.
Right. We can do it through rate of return, but more importantly, what we're doing is we know that money, that cost gets absorbed back into your budget. If you want to call it your budget, your cash flow, it'll get spent in different ways.
Right.
It becomes really, I think of it as the fluff factor. And I would say that anecdotally, and Aaron, you've been doing this for many years now with me, we've never had anyone that's asked for a raise.
And that's
that's what's so crazy is that we fund to 100% of their spending at retirement, 100%.
And we haven't had to send anyone back to work.
That's right.
And I think that's really the interesting thing that's happened over the last few years, because I, as an advisor, hadn't lived through any inflationary periods with you until these last 2 years. And so it really did put to the test our theory that we don't have to account for an annual increase in your spending needs, because there's a lot of things that come into play that account for the fact that we don't have to annually increase your income need by 3% every year.
And or reduce it when the markets go the other way.
Exactly, which is, like you said, Dad, people have replacements because of the expense of going to work. We often overestimate taxes slightly to create an additional buffer for clients. And then we've had the opportunity, I think, to live through, quadruple the amount of time I've had, to see how people actually live in retirement, which is that people make choices. Human nature and human behavior we've been able to observe with all of our clients, which is, like you said when this inflation started, was people are going to make choices. You don't just keep buying the same things for elevated prices and just say, well, now my budget's 20% more expensive, because nobody wants to do it. It's not even about, I need the same things. It's about, I don't want to pay $8 for a pound of bacon. I'll just eat something else.
You get aggravated. I'm not doing this.
Right.
This is not. No, I will not.
So they happen consciously or subconsciously. We lived through COVID, which was incredibly unique. Then we lived through the reopening of our country outside of COVID, which, completely created imbalances in our economy. First, we had this massive need for goods because people were locked inside their houses, so they're just consuming goods. Then, all of a sudden, we see this massive need for travel.
Because of pent-up demand.
But they stopped buying things in order to pay for their travel.
In addition to the sustained drawdown after 2021.
Right. And they also they couldn't go on vacation, so they bought things. So there were trade-offs all along the way, and that's usually how people live their lives.
And that's just the last 3 years.
Right.
That's why we don't have to talk about rates of return.
Right.
We don't, because we know that we're going to invest prudently based on your risk tolerance. Most likely you're going to be either from moderately conservative to moderate.
Aggressive.
Right. Which is going to be, you're going to have an exposure of somewhere between 50% and 75% to 80% of equities. And you have to, because you need to give your portfolio the opportunity to earn enough to cover your 4% withdrawal rate on the milk money portion. So I think the two things here is important. Identifying what is your number, which we can do. Number one. And then number two is that investing it in such a way to deliver the return that we need. And then number two is saying, okay, we have extra.
If we have extra.
If we have extra, what does that do with our life? We can enhance our income if we need to at some point. We can deal with emergencies. We can deal with the big stuff.
We can increase the inheritance to our lovely children.
Oh, and you talk about, staying in that.
I think my kids got enough.
staying
I don't
in
know what you're talking about.
in an aggressive mix. I mean, you kind of have to be a little bit more aggressive, I would think, because you could be retired longer than you were working, which is incredible to me. But I mean, if you retire in your late 50s, early 60s.
Well, Rob, I think the problem is that we've somehow these labels have been added, and what I would say is for the majority of folks that we visit with,
it's not aggressive if you're attempting to earn.
They think they're conservative, and most of them are anywhere from 70 to 90% already in stock mutual funds in their 401ks.
We had a client with someone with 95%, and he thought he was conservative.
And we're scaling them back, which is fine to get them into a place to say, okay, how much of your milk money do you have to take to the casino? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And if you want to invest that difference for growth for somebody else, cool. If you want to keep it because you know that you have short-term needs that are going to require, that's fine. But you don't need to attach yourself to somebody else's number. Attach yourself to yours.
You know what else you should do?
Take break number 2 of the hour.
That's right. We'll be right back to wrap up Straight Talk on Retirement right after these messages.
Living with chronic or severe hip or knee pain can affect every aspect of your life. Dr. Christopher Palmer with Signature Orthopedics may be able to help you get back to the things you love. Dr. Palmer specializes in robotic hip and knee replacements using a minimally invasive technology to provide patients with relief from arthritis and joint pain. Less invasive means less painful and faster recovery times. Pain from arthritis and joint degeneration can be constant or come and go. It's common for patients to try medication and other conservative treatments to treat their knee or hip pain. If you haven't experienced adequate relief from those treatment options, you may be a candidate for a Mako Smart Robotics partial or total knee or hip replacement, which may provide you with relief from your joint pain. Learn more at drpalmerortho.com. You don't have to live with joint pain. Go to drpalmerortho.com to learn more and schedule your appointment and get back to the things you love.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Well, we got about 2 minutes left here on the show on the Big 550 KTRS. Last time to give us a call, 314-931-5877, or send us a text, 84126.
And I think this will be our last text question. Our texter writes, I am currently working, however, my wife is not. Is she able to contribute to an IRA? Maybe.
Oh my God. So, as long as you are under certain income limitations, the working spouse can make a contribution on behalf of the non-working spouse. We call that a spousal IRA. So you can make, if you are under 50, a $7,000 contribution, over 50, an $8,000 contribution.
And this could be traditional or Roth, is that correct?
That is correct, but you have to be under the income limitations for either one of those thresholds in order to do that.
So it's a big maybe.
That's right.
Right.
Spouses get those extra benefits with those IRAs.
That's right. Well, also, if you are unable because you're over the income limits, you just want to make sure you're making a maximum contribution to your retirement plan.
Yeah, and from the mailbag, we received one. My new company does not offer a 401k plan. What are my best options for saving for retirement?
Probably a traditional IRA, so you can take advantage of some tax benefits.
Exactly, or a Roth IRA if you feel so compelled. My other question would be, are you considered a employee or a contractor? Because if you're not an employee, guess what? You could always set up a SEP or possibly a simple IRA as a way to absorb this money.
More of that money.
More of that money. Again, we appreciate everybody listening to the show today, and we'll be back next week with some more Straight Talk on Retirement. You can always call us for a coaching session if you like at 314-863-0008, 314-863-0008. See you next week.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more Straight Talk on Retirement with your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus, on the Big 550 KTRS.